Welcome to the United States of America. Welcome to John F. Kennedy Airport. This is where we begin our journey, and this is where dreams come true. Let's head off. I'm now in one of the Asian American enclaves in Brooklyn, New York, and this place really makes me feel like home. Just look at the architecture, the shop house architecture. You have the shops on the first floor, and upstairs is typically where the shopkeepers and their families live. Most of the shops aren't open now, unfortunately, which is sad. I'm now in the Greenwood Cemetery, and this is where some of the great American people are buried, such as the composer Leonard Bernstein, as well as the maker of the Steinway & Sons piano. Let's go find their graves, pay some tribute to them. This is a very famous historic landmark, and it's a very big place. I'm now standing at one of the vantage points in Greenwood Cemetery. Did I mention this place was big? Well, it's also quite beautiful. There are quite a few lakes in here. And, well, regardless of your nationality, this is probably the most famous person to have his tomb here. Samuel Morse, inventor of the telegraph and Morse code. I'm along 5th Avenue in Brooklyn, and this looks like a very peaceful playground, but it's around here that the Battle of Brooklyn took place some 200 years ago. The new colony of America faced a battle against the overpowering British at this time, and they were defeated in this battle. But this only served to strengthen the American loyalty. Might be tucked away in the middle of Brooklyn, but the New York Transport Museum is certainly worth a visit. Let's go. If you can find the entrance, that is. It's quite notable that racism was a big part of rail construction in the past. For example, African Americans were said to be better suited than European Americans to work deep underground because of the high heat in those compressed chambers. Also, they were not represented by unions at all. That was more than a century ago. How times have changed since then. The shoe is an underappreciated part of the train that is so crucially important to its functioning because it supplies electricity to the train, without which it wouldn't even move or supply light at all. And there are different kinds of shoes. This one, for example, has holes to accommodate for snow on tracks. Have you ever thought of that? Fare gantries have evolved significantly since their inception, more than a century ago. From manual ticket choppers that you see here, they gradually evolved into these. This is the first iteration of turnstiles. One wonders whether customers actually tried to trick the system by running under the turnstiles, thereby evading having to pay the fare. And so it was upgraded to this, not that easy to evade. And wooden turnstiles were slowly phased out and replaced with that made of stainless steel. There was even a huge model. Such a model doesn't require any trained officer supervising because really there's only enough space here for one person to squeeze through. But of course, it was phased out very quickly. And now today, in the New York subway system, this is what's being used. And of course, with the Metro card, which you swipe right here. Who knows what will be next in line? Can only wait and find out. For those of you who haven't been to New York before, this is exactly how a trip down to the subway would look like. That's right, the Transport Museum has actually replicated an entire subway station in their premises is to use it for displaying all these old cars. See the leather seats. These are very vintage cars. And this is the first transport museum I've seen that actually does this. Having a replica, an entire replica station. In fact, this is the only transport museum that I know of that has an electrified third rail running. The trains are all powered by the electrified third rail. This is amazing stuff. But unfortunately, the New York subway system is not one that I am really that I really like. Let's just say the train tracks look like sewers. The trains smell like piss, and the station name is printed on the wall in ugly blocky letters. It's really very unfortunate considering that the New York subway system is actually used to be one of the best. It had a golden age in the 1920s and 1940s, where it served 2 billion passengers annually, and yeah, it was at that point where most of the lines that the New Yorkers know of today came into existence, and fares back then were only a nickel per ride, so it was very cheap and very accessible to the public. Now here is the train cars of today, used in the majority of New York subway stations. You can see the American flag proudly draped over every single one of these cars. Patriotism at its finest. In an actual car on the subway line, the floor would be filled with a lot of dirty stuff and stains.
I see you!
The New York Transport Museum isn't the only place to talk about when talking about transport. Welcome to the Brooklyn Bridge. It is towering over us, and you can't really tell which side of the Brooklyn Bridge I'm on because it's so foggy. But anyway, across right there is the Manhattan Bridge, and I really want to focus on the engineering and design of this Brooklyn Bridge. As some of you might know, this is the first steel suspension bridge that was ever constructed. It was built nearly 150 years ago, and it was finally constructed in 1886. Now, what makes this bridge so special is that the engineer decided that for normal suspension bridges of the time, looking at the Manhattan Bridge there, it's like a harp. The cords are strung downwards from an arch, vertically downwards. As you might have noticed, for the Brooklyn Bridge, there are diagonal strings in addition to vertical strings, and this actually reinforces the structure such that it can carry 6 times the load than what was required, which was amazing for that time. So think about this. While most other bridges that were built in that century had to be torn down or completely rehauled because they couldn't stand the increasing amount of traffic of New York, the Brooklyn Bridge still stands tall as a testament to its strength to this day. And you have to imagine, back then, in their times, machinery was very limited. How were they able to install this pillar? The pillars that were anchored all the way into the seabed that form the basis of this bridge. It is really a marvel of engineering, and I think if there's one lesson that we should learn, is that as engineers, if any of you are engineers and are listening to this, this is the definition of going above and beyond your call of duty. To construct something that withstands the test of time and more, and all done for the public good. This bridge handles a lot of traffic today, as you can see right here. It is truly amazing. Moving closer, this is the plaque erected in honor of the people who built this bridge. The engineer is none other than John Roebling, who constructed this wonderful bridge. Alright, remember I was talking about Chinese enclaves? Well, we've crossed the Brooklyn Bridge and now we're here in Chinatown. It's pretty obvious that we've arrived here. Just look at the Chinese characters all around. And since we're here in Chinatown, it's only appropriate that we begin our culinary journey through New York. On a recommendation, I'm going to come in here, Wah Fong, try some of the eat to have lunch. Heard the roast pork and char siu is pretty good. Let's go in. Alright, so I found a nice place to sit down and have my lunch from Wah Fong. This looks really tantalizing. It's a whole load of pork and duck squashed into a box with loads of rice and cabbage. Chopped freshly, and there's a lot of marinade and juice poured over it. I hope you're not, your saliva isn't dripping out of your mouth right now, because we have a lot more fantastic delights up ahead to showcase. Right, so on recommendation, this is another place, a must go in New York, Eileen's Special Cheesecake. Take care when you are coming here. It's quite a small shop, much smaller than I expected, so you might miss it. The prices here are actually quite expensive. It's $3.75 US for one small little cake. But hey, this is New York, home to New York cheesecake. How can you not give this a try? Let's go in. And this is the selection of cheesecake. Looks absolutely amazing.
You said blueberry?
Yep.
We're here.
Take away, please.
$3.75.
Alright. We're now down at Spring Street to continue our culinary journey across New York. And no culinary journey in New York is complete without going to Dominic Ansel, which is the hometown, the birthplace rather, of the wonderful cronuts. Now, the cronut is made only in the morning and sells out very quickly. So you need to do some time traveling, go back into the morning and get our cronut. Let's go. We're in the bakery itself now, and they clearly have a very nice outdoor garden for you to enjoy your cronuts. And no joke, this is the queue. I think it's considered pretty short already, but it'll be a while until I get my hands on my cronuts. So I finally made it out onto the tube, onto the train, and this is the cronut that I bought. The icing fell out a bit, don't mind that, but I'm expecting a lot from this, more than the cronut that I bought in London. I shall tuck in. It's delicious. The acidity is great. It's very sugary. I think they have a different one every single month. And this strawberry one's amazing. The amount of butter inside is rich. This truly is a cronut of the ages. So it's dinner time. I'm here at a generic Chinese restaurant in Brooklyn, and I'm about to show you a secret that will warm up a cold winter's day. Come on in. A little known Chinese food amongst the non-Asians. This is beef noodle soup, and there are many different regional variations for this, even amongst the Chinese. And the Vietnamese have their own beef noodle soup called pho. But in any case, what happens is that the strong, intense flavor of the beef is transferred into the soup, which gives it a very rich, powerful and tasty flavor, yet still being one of the healthier dishes when it comes to Chinese takeaways. Do try this. It's pretty good. Moving further down South New York, we are here at the One World Trade Center, reconstructed after the horrific 9/11 attacks. This building is so staggeringly tall, you can't even see the top. cause of the New York fog. Sorry. Yeah. This is insanely tall. What a skyscraper. Well, let's go to the museum to learn more about 911.
Apparently a small passenger plane crashing into the World Trade Center.
No, this is a big plane.
What was happening in New York City?
Something terrible's happened in New York. Amen. And the guy in the door. Is that right? Yeah, I can see the most tremendous ball of smoke just streaming across the sky.
And then the same flight flying to
They showed the second plane crashed into the second tower. 2 hours trapped.
Never have I felt so hopeless and so scared of what happened.
It's so real. It's surreal. This is a pretty waterfall right here, but some of you might be wondering why it's square shaped. Well, that's because this waterfall was constructed in the very same location where the North Tower stood, the North Tower of World Trade Center, when it was bombed in 2001. It is quite huge, and across the perimeter of this waterfall, the names of what I presume to be the people, the ordinary civilians who passed away during this tragedy, are inscribed. I think this offers a huge sense of perspective to it. I was very stunned when I first saw this. All the water draining into the abyss down there. All the innocent human lives as well. This is really sad. Before I move on, I would just like to say that this is by far the biggest memorial museum I've ever seen. The scale of it is mind-boggling, although quite appropriate given the scale of the catastrophe itself. This is one of the fragments that remain of the transmission tower on top of the transmission antenna, on top of the North Tower. The amount of damage is indeed quite real. Even the defense team that responded to the 9/11 attacks were not spared from this disaster. This is one of the fire trucks that was crushed when the North Tower fell. One can only imagine the lives of the firefighters who were stuck underneath the falling debris. This is very painful. Alright, so unfortunately most of the museum is in a non-photography zone, so I can't really record too much about this. But what was really rattling for me was when I was traveling through that zone, there were audio transcripts of people on the fourth flight that was hijacked. It did not crash into any important buildings. The personnel on board forced the hijackers to dive and crash into a field in Pennsylvania. But imagine if you're one of the passengers on board, you've heard about the World Trade Center attacks just moments earlier, and now it's happening to you. You know that you're about to die. Some of the passengers on board picked up their phones and called their loved ones. That feeling that you know that you're about to die in a few minutes, and you're calling to your loved ones and telling them, I love you so much. How does it feel to know that you're going to die and you're saying your last words? As we exit this museum, I don't know what to think about that. It's just very depressing. We're approaching the end. And so that brings us an end to our tour of the World Trade Center. But if you do come here yourself, do be sure to check out this area south of the World Trade Center buildings. Contains a plaque and this very, very intricately designed mural dedicated to those who have fell during the incident. more tributes to Americans who have lost their lives. This is a World War II memorial commemorating the soldiers, the Navy and the Coast Guard who have lost their lives during the war. And in the distance, there you can barely make out amidst the New York fog. It's the Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island. Can't really see it from here. Gotta take a cruise to get up and close. As our day winds down to a close, what better way to end it off than a cruise ride on the Staten Island cruise. To those of you budget travelers who are watching this, this is something to take note of because it's completely free. There are lots and lots of people. Alright, hopefully you can hear me amidst the strong wind. As I mentioned, this is as close as I'm going to get to the Statue of Liberty. She was constructed as a collaboration between American and French people as a sign of freedom. She stands at about 14 stories high, holding a torch in one hand and a book in another. Did you know that there is a replica of this Statue of Liberty in France? You can see it from the Eiffel Tower. It's on a little island by itself, just like this one, sitting on Liberty Island. Finally, I believe this Statue of Liberty was originally brown in color, but due to it being copper, of course it would oxidize to this green color that is so make it so iconic today. It's a famous symbol of freedom, not just for Americans, but for people all around the world. So we have arrived at the Staten Island ferry terminal, and apart from the landfill that is on this island, there's actually not much to see here. So with that, we've bring this New York leg of the journey to a close. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it. That was a long walk around Brooklyn and New York. Hope to see you in the Philadelphia leg of this journey. So, see you there. Goodbye.